everyone. We apologize for the late start today. We were having some technical difficulties. During a declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Panel members participating today are Laura Alderson, Neil Palmer, Stan Kumorik, and Sophia Roddick. I am Michael Clark, and I'm the panel chair. All registered participants will be participating by audio only. We also ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaws that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on a particular application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, your address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the Event and Appeal TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee rendered here today, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Body, LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision. The hearing procedure will be as follows. We will call each item in the order listed in the agenda. We'll deal with some deferrals first, but we just proceed in order. We don't vet the agenda in the virtual, on virtual hearings, unlike when we were doing in-person hearings long ago. So when an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. Where the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are advised the chair should they wish to address the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I will comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address before you start, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The agent or applicant proceeds first and makes their presentation to the committee of the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if being substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application have been informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will give an opportunity to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentations, and when all speakers have finished, the applicant or agent is given an opportunity to rebut only those issues and answer those questions that were raised by the speakers. That will then mark the end of the discussion on the matter, and the matter is then taken into the committee for a decision. Okay, some preliminary matters we got to deal with before we start today's hearing. To confirm the minutes of the last, I believe we have 2 sets of minutes to approve, the October 14th and 28th. Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so can we have a motion to approve both sets of minutes? The 14th.
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Komorik. Seconded by Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, the minutes are both approved. Do any of the panel or staff have any declarations of interest to declare on the matters before us in this morning's agenda? Okay, none to declare. Any files to be closed, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Not today.
Okay, so we have two, but we'll deal with the deferrals first to get them off the, get the people off the line. We have items 11 and 12, which are heard together. They're adjacent properties. 80 MIMICO and, 80 MIMICO and 78 MIMICO. The applicant for this application, the agent is Bishoy Shinoda with Evans Planning, and then we have a neighbor on the line at 68. So let's hear first from the Mr. Shinoda, or Ms. Bishoy Shinoda. Are you on the line?
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of committee. My name is Bishoy Shnoda with Evans Planning. I'm here as representative of the owner of 78 and 80 Mimico.
Okay, so we have a note from the planning department that this is a deferral request at your request. This is your request for a deferral, correct? Not planning's request or any other city department? You were requesting the deferral? Have we lost him or? Okay, in any event, we had a note on the planning memo that this matter was to be deferred at the applicant's request. Well, we're already an hour behind schedule. Perhaps, I don't know if we need to hear, do members feel they have to hear from the applicant to justify this deferral request, or can we make a motion without hearing from the applicant? We have a note as a request from the applicant with and community planning was fine with the deferral. Yeah, we have Mr. Dix. We'll have to hear from him as well as yeah, okay. Fred Dick was at 68 Mimico, and then at 63, we have the Hogel Funeral Home Mimico Chapel at 63 Mimico, who's either Graham Hogel or Mr. and Mrs. Allison Hogel Dick or Robert Dick. Okay. Robert, we can hear you. Miss Robert? We're not able to hear anyone. Maybe it's just it's not just Mr. Shinoda. It's yeah. Can the members hear?
Hi, members. Can you hear us?
Members? Okay.
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound. Invalid event panelist numeric password. Try again. Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Or hi, Barb. Can you hear me? I don't think so. ECC is there. It just mutes itself again. Are we back to this problem? Hi, Barb. Can you hear me?
Testing. Can you hear me? Testing. Testing.
Hi, Barb. Can you hear me? We didn't even make it through an item.
Hmm. Okay.
Hi, Barb. Can you hear me? Hi, Barb. Can you hear me? Doesn't make a difference. All right, I give up.
Huh? Luckily, it's a pretty easy agenda, not a lot of contested matters. That's a good thing.
Invalid event panelist numeric password. Try again. Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
I can hear you.
Barb, you can hear me?
Yep. And I can see the room.
Back on, we were with 1112. We were just hearing from the Mr. Shinoda, and then we're going to hear from the neighbor at 63, the funeral home. Yeah, if we have the applicant there, that's where we were. He was just confirming that it was his request. The deferral request was his request.
I think we have two neighbors, 63 and 68.
Yeah, 68. We've been advised it will not be speaking. Fred Dick
Oh.
at 68, but we have the neighbor at 63. It's just on the matter. So
Okay.
if we can just hear from Mr. Shinoda. So just confirm this is your request for a deferral. Can you just expand on that briefly? Mr. Shinoda? Evans Planning? Is he on the line, Nicole? Yeah, let's try to hear then from Robert Dick at 63, just on the issue of the deferral.
Hi, Robert, are you there?
What to say? The work culture in this bank is very different than what the rest of other foreign banks are, even in Canadian banks. So, work culture is very, very, bad.
Can't hear you, sir. Are
Hi,
you
Robert.
talking on a speaker or?
I think he's taking another phone call.
Was that Mr. Dick or is that Mr. Shinoda? Okay.
Mr. Dick.
Mr. Shinoda? Can we maybe do a sound check with some other applicant to make sure it's just this particular one? Or
Hi, Annalisa, can you hear me? Or can you speak?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Annalisa.
Okay.
Kinda.
Why don't we go on to item 17 and see if we can deal with that deferral?
okay, item number 17
I don't even
is
know.
27 SUNNYLEA Avenue. This is an automatic deferral to November 30th. We don't suspect, we're not sure that the applicant or agent is on the law going to be present on this in any case. It's just marked on.
No, it's automatic.
It's automatic, so we're not going to hear from the applicant is not here. So
No, we just need a motion
okay, so
to
we need a
clear.
motion to defer item 17 to the November 30th hearing.
I'm happy to make that motion
Thank you, Ms.
for
Alderson.
deferral.
Seconded by Sophia. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, that matter's deferred. Okay, so are we gonna 11 and 12 in Mr. Shinoda or Mr. Dick?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Where we left off about a half an hour ago or longer, I was asking you what the purpose of the deferral. It was at your request to confirm that this deferral request is your request and not planning's.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're requesting deferral so we can work with staff to address some of the comments received and to bring this application back in the earliest convenience.
Okay, thank you. So let's just hear now if we can have, just on the matter of deferral, Robert Dick from the funeral home at 63 Mimico. Mr. Dick?
It's actually Graham Hogle. It's Graham Hogle that will be speaking.
Okay.
It's not me.
Yeah, I had a choice of 3 people speaking. So Graham, thank you. We just want to hear from you on the issue of the deferral. The applicant is requesting a deferral, so there is this matter will be brought back on. You will be re-notified, and hopefully there will be changes to the application.
Graham, unfortunately, is unable to unmute right now. Is there a way that you can unmute his mic for him, or?
Okay.
There we go. There we go. Yes, no, the deferral, yes, we'll revisit this at the deferral date.
Yes. Okay, thank you, sir. Committee members, any questions for either of the speakers or is someone ready to make a motion to defer this matter? Mr. Kamara?
I'd be willing to do a motion for the both items to be deferred so that the applicant can process with planning and come back with a more appropriate application.
Thank you. Seconder for that? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred. Thank you. We'll see you, Mr. Shinoda, back here, as well as the objectors, if you'll be notified as well when this matter is brought back on. Okay, so we can now go back to the top of the agenda. Item number 1, 41 REID MANOR. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an integral garage. We have 2 variances. We have a cover letter, a response as to why it's not possible to comply. We have an applicant's presentation, support, as well as a opposition, a letter from 38 Glen Ellen. They would like to have shadow studies done to determine their effect on their property. That was the nature of their letter. And I believe they're located in the rear, 1 property to the east. And we only have 1 speaker, Peter Giordano, the agent. Good morning, Mr. Giordano.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Okay, I don't know if we need a fulsome presentation on this matter. We don't have anyone else registered to speak. We only have the 1 letter, not really an objection letter, looking for a shadow study. Would you like to advise the committee of anything? Or can I just see if anyone has any questions for you? We also have urban forestry requesting condition number 3.
We're okay with the urban forestry condition, and just a quick statement. We've had conversations with our neighbor at 38 Glen Ellen Drive. We've pointed out to him that his home is southeast of our property. Therefore, a shadow study would only show that their property casts shadow on our property. We've had that discussion with them. They say that they're not going to be present to object, but still had some minor concerns, but we're verbally going to chat through those after the hearing.
Okay. And I mentioned the support. There actually are 8 letters of support. Committee members,
there should be 11 letters of support.
Okay. Yeah, 8 and 2, sorry. That's 10, doesn't really make a difference. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Giordano? Is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
If no one has any questions, I'm prepared to weigh in with a motion.
Thank you.
Subject to urban forestry number 3, I believe this application meets the 4 tests and I approve the variances.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson, seconder for that. Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Giordano. We'll see you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Item number 2 is 7 NIPPISING Drive. It's an application to construct a 2-story north side addition, which will contain an attached garage, a 2nd-story addition over the existing dwelling, a new covered front porch, a new rear deck, and a rear yard basement walkout. And there are 5 variances. All we have is an arborist report, a covering letter. Forestry is looking for a denial, a refusal to deny variance number 1. And that's all we have. The speaker for this is Eddie Perez. No other speakers registered to speak. Good morning, Mr. Perez.
Good morning, Chairman and committee members. I'm here on behalf of the owner. How are you today?
Okay, I'd like to advise there's no one else here in opposition. There are no letters of opposition or comments from city staff other than forestry on the looking for a denial due to variance number 1. Perhaps you want to address that briefly, and then we'll just see if
Yeah,
there are some questions.
I've been in touch with since I got this letter. I've been in touch with the arborist. The arborist said that we can accommodate them, and we will shovel like the driveway when they rebuild it. They're going to do it by hand, so there'll be hardly any impact on the tree. We have no intentions to injure any trees. We would like to keep all the trees that are on the property, and that's our position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, panel members, for Mr. Perez, or someone ready for a motion? Mr. Komorek?
I'm willing to chime in with the motion. I believe the application is minor and meets the 4 tests. I would like to move approval subject to urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you. We have a seconder for Mr. Komorek's motion. Okay, I can't see your little icons.
Neil Palmer.
Can we stop sharing the screen?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Palmer, seconding that motion. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, item number 3 is 33 Roseland Drive. It's an application to reconstruct a 2nd-story east side addition. There is 1 variance. It's the GFA from 0.4 to 0.5, and we have comparable decisions have been provided. Other than that, we have nothing on file, no comments from city departments, not even urban forestry on this one. The speaker is Agostino Monteleone.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Agostino Monteleone from Amtech Engineering Limited. I am here on behalf of the property owners.
Thank you. I don't believe we need a fulsome presentation. Why don't we like to advise the committee members of anything, or perhaps I can just see if they have any questions. And I see you've given us comparable approvals in the vicinity on Owen, Jellicoe, Albright, to indicate that your floor space index is compatible. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Monteleone, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm happy to make that motion.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions.
Seconder for.
I move for approval. Yeah.
Thank you. As we have a seconder for that motion. Mr. Komorek, thank you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Monteleone. Okay, item number 4 is 1617 Islington Avenue. It's an application to permit a parking deficiency. There's 1 variance. Parking space is located in the front yard. We have a cover letter. Transportation has advised they have no objection. That's all we have on this application. There is an urban forestry condition number 2 as well. Speaker is Clayton Fernandez, didn't register, but that is the speaker for this application. The owner of the property, co-owner. Mr. Fernandez? We did? Members, can you hear us? No. Okay.
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
Hi, Barb. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and I can see Michael. So the agent for item 4 requested a deferral because he didn't post the sign, so we just need a motion for item
We're just
4.
on Mr. Fernandez, who we weren't able to reach. So that has to be.
No, oh, sorry, maybe you didn't hear him. So he requested a deferral because the sign wasn't posted.
Okay. Okay.
With apologies.
Mr.
I'll move for deferral to allow proper notice
Okay.
to the next hearing date.
Ms. Alderson, thank you for seconding that. All in favor? Okay, the matter is deferred due to, in order to comply with the sign posting requirement. Okay, so we can move over to item number 5. Number 5 is 12 to 14 Goldthorne Avenue. It's an application to permit an online vehicle dealership at 12 Goldthorne Avenue. The existing office and warehouse at 14 Goldthorne Avenue will be maintained. There are 2 variances. Firstly, that a vehicle dealership is not permitted in an E zone, and that a total number of parking spaces is for vehicle dealership is 50. In this case, 4 parking spaces will be provided. That's all we have. Okay, I don't believe there are any. We have copies of two previous decisions regarding this property, supporting material, and planning was looking for conditions of approval, 7 conditions of approval, and transportation has advised that they believe that agree with the consultant's conclusion that based on the business operations, the site can be managed with available parking supply. The speaker on this application is one of either the agent, Michael Vanny, or the owner, Dan Park. We only need 1 speaker. There is no one here speaking in opposition or with concerns. It's going to be the agent. Okay, Mr. Vanny.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. As stated, there are 7 conditions that were proposed by planning staff, and transportation has also weighed in that they don't have any concerns with the parking reduction. We've done a number of discussions with staff prior to submitting this application, ensure that we were able to iron out any concerns of staff prior to filing an application. Given that there are no objections from the community, and that we have the 7 conditions from planning staff and positive support from transportation, we believe that the application should be approved. I'm happy to do a brief presentation if there's any questions or concerns of the committee. One item that is not before you is we did request yesterday a revision to condition number 2, and planning staff have agreed in email correspondence to that. I can provide the email on the screen if that would be helpful. There wasn't time to get it onto the Application Information Center in advance of the hearing today.
So you're talking there's a revision to point 2 on the November 4th planning memo on the conditions, where that one says no on-site appointments are permitted for the purpose of test driving, sales, and or sales agreement. So what is the change? Maybe you want to put that up on the screen if to let us know what the change is.
Mr. Chair, the email was submitted late. Oh, okay, we do have it. So no, there's an email that came yesterday, and the change to number 2 is no on-site appointments are permitted for the purpose of test driving and or viewing of vehicles.
Okay, so we add in and or
Versus
viewing
what you
vehicles
see on
and
the
remove
screen.
sales and or sales agreement. So that would be
Yes.
the change. Okay. Okay, committee members, any questions for Mr. Vanny? And I see we do have in our supporting materials a report from Weston Consulting, presentation materials, as well as supporting materials, a parking justification letter from the other consultant, Crozier. And
Chair, question from Palmer here. Sir, are you okay with the condition for 3 years?
Yes, we accept the 3-year condition.
Okay, I would say I normally don't go along with 3-year things, 4-year things, whatever, but because there is a provision in the Planning Act for temporary use bylaw for that purpose. But I guess given the lack of parking here, it gives staff time to assess whether there's going to be any impacts from the parking. So I would go along with that in this case if we do give approval.
okay, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Also, I just note
I have a question.
the first variant says a vehicle dealership is not permitted in E zone, so I assume it's already non-conforming use at number 14, Because 14 is not before, well, sort of it is before, but that, it says it will be maintained. So that I assume is also, it wasn't permitted in the E zone. So the 3-year condition is, the applicant has confirmed that. Mr. Kamarick, you had a question as well?
I have a question for the applicant, because they're saying that it's only going to be 4 parking spaces, yet when you look on Google Maps, it appears that there's 8 surface parking spaces on the site. So I'm just trying to understand why only 4 are being proposed.
So there are a number of spaces in and around the building that have, been established over time. Based on what is shown legally as existing spaces, there are 2 at the front, and then there are a few at the rear of the building. The west portion of the building is number 14, and those spaces are being used by the adjacent tenant. There is an opportunity for additional spaces to be acquired through the lease arrangement, and there's additional parking on the side of the building available and within the building if necessary. However, given the staff volume at the site, it is not necessary, and the site can operate on the basis of 4 spaces.
Okay, so the short answer then would be that of those 8, the spots that Mr. Kamarick is seeing, some of them belong to the other property at 14. Is that correct?
Correct.
So 4 have been allocated to 12.
To number 14.
Okay, and Mr. Kamarick, you had another question?
Yeah, no, so there's 2 occupancies, separate occupancy in number 14 and separate occupancy in number 12 then.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'll move for approval. Variances requested are minor in nature, subject to the conditions as revised by planning.
Thank you. Seconded from Mr. Palmer's motion. Mr. Kamarick? All in favor? Unanimous approval. Unanimous? Ms. Reddick, your hand is up. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Van. You have a unanimous approval.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Our next application is item number 6, 127 Burnhamthorpe Road. It's to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 6 variances. We have an arborist report. Forestry is looking to deny variances 3 and 8. That was in our memo dated November the 14th. We have 14 letters of opposition, and there was a second forestry memo as well. Yeah, there was one where November 4th, where they said they had no objection, and then the other one is dated November 4th. And they're looking for the denial, and so therefore it's conditions 2 and 5. In the additional materials, we have 6 letters of support to go along with those 14 letters of opposition. And registered to speak on this application are Marin Zabzuni, the agent, as well as the neighbors, 4 neighbors on Burnhamthorpe Road, 16, 131, 96, and 123. Actually, I've advised the neighbor at 96 is not going to be speaking, just observing, so we have 3 neighbors registered to speak. Mr. Zabzumi, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Marin Zabzuni at 1140 the Queensway.
Okay. Since we have people here in opposition, I think we should have a presentation.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll get started. We're proposing a 2-story detached dwelling, a new build here encompassed by several developments in the area. So let's start off with the first variance in terms of lot coverage. So the proposed lot coverage is 39.95%, whereas the maximum permitted lot coverage is 0.33 times the area, so 33%. So the proposed increase in coverage is requested due to the small lot size in terms of depth when compared with the surrounding built form, and this includes the rear porch area. So the house actually proposed is only 33.05%. That's the house by itself. While the rear porch, which is covered, adds to the 6.9% of the lot coverage. So we have worked closely with city planning staff in order to bring down the proposed lot coverage and removed the previous rear yard setback variance, which you don't see before you anymore. That was with working with staff. The proposal is consistent with other approvals in the neighborhood, including 71 Mattis Avenue at 38%, 18 Holloway Road at 40%, and 78 Freedom Avenue at 42%. So it is our opinion that this variance is minor in nature and is in keeping with similar approvals in the neighborhood and surrounding built form. Next, we're looking at the FSI. So we were initially applying for 67%, 0.67. When we reviewed some of the letters from neighbors and how they expressed their concerns, the homeowner also took the time to speak with as many neighbors as he could. So we recently submitted just a revision to reduce the FSI further to 0.65%. So we reduced the building depth. And again, the reason for this number is because the lot is not very deep. If you look at the area, it gets bigger towards the center of the street where the lots are much deeper. So this one is not too deep, and the rear property line is on an angle. You can see on the site plan. So the proposed design was again developed in collaboration with our client to achieve their specific space requirements. While designing, our goal was to keep the design and size compatible with precedent set by similar houses in the community. This is an evolving neighborhood, and this is reflected in similar variances approved, such as 82 Avonhurst Road at 75% FSI and 17 Burnhamthorpe Park Boulevard at 77%. We have also included in our supporting material comparable variances and to show that we're well within other approved build forms. So it is our strong opinion that this variance is minor in nature, and part of the reason is due to the lot size. The house itself is actually not that large in terms of square footage. In terms of side yard setback, I think it's fairly healthy. The proposed aggregate side yard setbacks are 2.48 meters, whereas minimum permitted are 3.05 meters. The proposal is consistent with other approved variances, including 80 Brennan Avenue at 2.44 meters, 54 Burnhamthorpe Crescent at 1.63 meters, and 50 Renown Road at 1.36 meters. So we believe this is minor variance as well. In terms of building length, we're proposing 17.96 meters, where the permitted length is 17 meters. So something that we want to emphasize is that this building length is taken to the edge of the rear porch. So the building length of the main dwelling itself is 14.38 meters, well below the permitted maximum. It's only due to the excavated rear deck that is triggering this variance. And to speak to that, the rear deck is also fairly close to the ground, so the impact to neighbors is minimal, if any at all. So we believe this is more of a technical variance, and it's very minor as per the merit of this drawing. So the proposed height of the rear platform, so the rear deck, located more than 2.5 meters from the rear main wall, is 1.24 meters, essentially 4 feet, where maximum permitted height is 1.2 meters.
Hello, do we lose him? Yeah, he was almost at his 5 minutes. But it's ridiculous here today.
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
The committee has none of that information.
Yes, I can
But you
It's
can
only-
address it now? Okay. Michael, can you hear us?
Yep, yep. So, Mr. Zabzuni, you were almost at your 5-minute mark. And
We just
lost.
have to wait for the room to connect.
Yeah,
Yep.
you were just.
Sorry about this, everyone.
Yeah. So you would almost finish your presentation, I trust, because you were almost there. You were about 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So if you want to just sort of wrap up, we have a number of speakers. We have a number of 14 letters.
Michael, we can't hear you yet.
Oh, okay. Testing. Can you hear?
Yep.
Members,
Yep.
can you hear? Okay. Mr. Zabzuni, you were almost at the end of your presentation, or at least your allotted 5 minutes. You had about 10, 15 seconds less, and we lost connection. So if you'd like to just wrap up, we have a number of people here speaking. We have the 14 letters of opposition, some of which quite fulsome presentations, not just a form letter, I object. So we'll hear from some of the neighbors, but just want to just wrap up. You were almost concluding, almost finished your presentation.
Absolutely. So to wrap up, we submitted changes last week to variance number 2, item number 2, which is the FSI. We reduced it from 0.67 times the lot area to 0.65 times the lot area, which is now 356.62 meters squared.
Well, hold on,
So we reduced
that's not, but we don't have that before us. Do we, Ms. Bartosik? We have the original application. I don't have any revised yellow revision sheets showing any changes to the FSI or any other. Of the
No, and I've
variances.
told the agent that we don't have any of that information.
Yeah, so we submitted to the application technician last week, maybe because it's that's the deadline. We just did this in response to, you know, the owner's effort to work with the neighbors.
So what?
But sir, did you have along with that? Did you have revised plans to go along with that? Did you have
Yes.
either sign a waiver or have a revised
Yes.
notice or review?
Yes, we sent all that last week.
No, it's not before us. So you're saying you brought down the FSI by 2 points to 0.65.
Correct.
And how many square meters is that?
356.62 square meters. That's all. And then for that.
So it's about
So
eight
just to
meters
wrap up.
less. 8 meters less.
Yes.
8 square meters.
So to wrap up, essentially, we believe a lot of the variances are very minor in nature. A lot of them triggered due to the lot depth, and the owner has spoken to all the neighbors. Last week we also submitted several letters of support. I'm not sure if that's before you.
Yes, we did receive
so
that in
it-
our additional materials yesterday, 6 letters of support and additional materials.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for that. We'd let you go over due to the, technology issues. So does anyone have any questions for Mr. Zabzumi at this time before we hear from the neighbors? Okay, if none, then let's hear from, we have, like I said, several very fulsome letters of objection from 131. There was no address in the one behind, but I understand that's now the Campbells who have registered to speak at 16. And like I said, we have all those letters. And so let's hear from the first neighbor registered, John or Rosemary Campbell at 16 Burnhamthorpe. We have their written submission as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is John Campbell. I'd prefer that Doug McIntyre speak first, as he's the lead speaker.
Okay. So Susan McIntyre, 131 Burnhamthorpe, right next door, even though there's a jump in for municipal numbers. I see that on the location map. And we have a very fulsome presentation in the materials from that neighbor. Perhaps we can go along.
Yes. Mr. Chairman and committee members, my name's Duncan McIntyre. My wife is Susan. I'm representing our household.
Okay.
We're at 131 Burnhamthorpe Road. We've been there since 1973. And 131 is actually on the west side of 127. The houses along Burnhamthorpe and the surrounding neighborhoods were built around the mid-1930s. in keeping with the size that, at that time of the back in the 30s. Today, those standards, the kitchen, bedroom, and the bathrooms are all small and dated. Today, the trend is to enlarge houses through renovations or tear downs. This is happening through the neighborhood. In fact, we've undertaken 2 major and 2 minor renovations over the years that we have been in the house. And these renovations were all completed in the interests of the neighborhood in mind, and no variances were required. Mr. Alla purchased 127 Burnhamthorpe, which is, as I say, next door to us, in June of this year. He immediately, he intended to he introduced himself to us as Nick Developments and a certified RE/MAX sales representative. We introduced Mr. Alla to the owner of 139 Burnhamthorpe, which again is just to the west, is our west side of our house, whose owner was about to sell her home and move into a senior's home. Mr. Alla agreed to purchase 139 that very day. Both houses needed substantial renovations or tear down, and he considered the options on both properties and chose to renovate 139 and tear down 127. We're not adverse to development, and the application did not come as a complete surprise. We expected this in any development would be in keeping with the surrounding properties. At the time, he expressed concern about variances should he tear down 127, because that would just add cost to his development. He did not approach us at any time to discuss his proposal until he had actually filed his application. The proposal, proposed house have 2 pretty significant variances, both to do with the size of the building he is attempting to build. It's just too large on the property. And as just his agent just indicated, it's a small lot and it's a big house on a small lot. We're attempting to show the precedence that has been set on the property diagonally across from the subject property. If you refer to my figure 1, which is the layout of the layout of the neighborhood, I'm going to address lot number 51, and which is behind and to diagonally from the said property, which is number 72. Maybe we could go up a bit further for the lot. No, the other way. There we go, right here. And if you'll notice, number, let's see, number 72 and number, oh yeah, there you go, number 72 and number 51. And my apology, in my presentation, I talked about number 50. It's 51, and it's in the case of number 51. That is a larger lot size to number 72, the applicants. So we have
Sorry,
one large
Mr.
lot.
Mr. McIntyre, I'm unfortunately going to have to ask you to try to wrap up. You're over 5 minutes, and we have a number of speakers. We do have your in the materials as you've been reading along as you've been making your presentation. So if you could just please try to wrap up, because we have other speakers. I understand you are the major speaker. Perhaps some of the speakers will take less time because you're right next door. So please just...
This proposed development tests the intent of bylaws. You know, the variances are not minor. No consideration been given to the surrounding areas. The seascape, approximately 65% of the front yard, which is the driveway and a walkway, is paved. And I have a picture that demonstrates that, the front of the property. At the rear of the property, again, 65% of the rear of the yard, that's the stairs, pool, and a concrete pad, is a stark contrast to the green space is depicted in the other photograph that I show. So these spaces are not incompatible with the surrounding properties, and we consider that the development should be turned down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. McIntyre. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. McIntyre at this point? Panel members? If not, you can just follow along. He's been going through his presentation. It's in our materials. So we'll go back then to the next speaker, John Campbell at 16, now that we've heard from Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. You've been quite generous with the time. I appreciate that. And so I'll keep my comments brief. As the committee members could see when the schematic was put up for everyone to observe, the backyard that currently is part of a nice green space in the surrounding neighborhood it plans to be developed such that the actual amount of green space at the back of that property is minuscule, okay? And so it materially impacts in a negative way the enjoyment of the neighborhood, for sure. I don't think there's any question about that. The other point that I would make is that our neighbor, my property is immediately behind the levy property, which is 127. And so I'm at 16, so 17 Burnhamthorpe Park Boulevard, but a year and a half or 2 years ago, there was a tear down built new, and we objected to that. They originally proposed a very large facility, and we objected to it, and the committee turned that original application down. And so the new owners came back with an altered plan that was approved. And actually that house has been built, and while it still is a very large house, it's a reasonable neighbor, I would say. And that application, the revised application, had a gross floor area of 348.5 square meters, and the building length was 16.38, with a new floor space index reduced to 0.62 of the lot area. We'd ask for the same consideration. If you take a look at the plans that have been submitted, while it's true, they can be thought of as being in two parts: the building itself, and then all the infrastructure in the backyard, you know, the porch and the pool and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, together they have to be considered in one. That would certainly be my view, and I would respectively, submit that for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Is that it? So
That's it.
So the property I'm looking at 18, Barnumthorpe Park Boulevard, the precedent one you talk about is almost directly, it's right next to you, and it's one house over from the subject property in the rear. And again, we know about the lot configuration, the way the dividing line between the Burnhamthorpe Park Boulevard properties and the Burnhamthorpe Road, there is a squiggly line, but that is a sort of an average size lot. If we can look, because the argument that Mr. Zabzuni is saying his lot is shorter, it's certainly not as short as the one at 119 when you look at the location map. which is, I think, very helpful because it ties in with what his argument is. Mr. Campbell, his opposition letter was the first one who just made his presentation. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Campbell at this point? If not, we'll go to the last speaker, Scott Priest at 123 Burnhamthorpe Road, which is the neighbor on the other side of the property. So we're hearing from both adjacent and the neighbor directly behind. Mr. Priest? And you can find Mr. Priest's opposition letter at item number 3. We lost the room again?
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
Testing. Can you hear me, members? No? We're good to
Yes,
go?
yes.
Okay. Okay, so we were just introducing Mr. Priest at 123 on the, also right next door on the other side of the subject property, and we have his letter as the third opposition letter in our package. Mr. Priest?
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of committee. I'm the owner of 123 Burnhamthorpe Road, which is the house adjoining to the east of the subject property. And I've owned my house for 18 years and been an active member in the neighborhood, being a director on the Islington Ratepayers and Residents Association. I'm speaking today as a resident and not as in my capacity as a director on the IRRA. However, a number of members in the vicinity have written objections to the application. I purchased my house in this neighborhood because of the large lots, open green spaces, trees, and character of the neighborhoods. These are the qualities of the neighborhoods that are being ignored by the constant requests for variances to overbuild. I'm opposed to the requested variances, primarily the ones relating to maximum lot coverage and maximum floor space, although Mr. Zabzuni mentioned that has been reduced. At no time did Mr. Allott speak to me, other than to come when he actually backed into my garden wall and damaged.
Mr. Priest, just to let you know before you continue that revision is not before us, where the
no, I
number
realize
went down by 0.2.
I realize.
So what's before us is the original. And it's only 8 meters, I believe, 8 square meters.
That's
something, but it's not before us.
Okay, thank you. In addition, I'm concerned about the aggregate side yard setback for the reasons set forth in Urban Forestry's reports and also identified in my letter where there's potentially an application to injure my trees. In my opinion, the variances proposed do not meet the 4 statutory tests set forth in the Planning Act. I've set them forth in my letter, but I'll summarize them again. Firstly, the increases in both lot coverage and gross floor area is too large to be considered minor. The increased mass of the proposed dwelling unit is approximately twice the footprint of the existing dwelling, plus covered in a closed deck, and will extend halfway down my rear yard and block both views and sunlight coming into my garden and result in loss of privacy and enjoyment of my property. As Mr. Campbell indicated, it will reduce the openness and green space for which the neighborhood is known. And for these reasons, the proposed dwelling is incompatible with the built form and character of the neighborhood. And it's also important to note that the subject property, which Mr. Zabzuni mentioned, is irregular at the back. It's diagonal towards the McIntyres. So it is 125 on the McIntyre side and 110 on my side, being a 15-foot difference. And hopefully the committee will take this into consideration in its decisions relating to the variances requested, as it will have a greater impact on my property in that the footage is based on the total footage, but the actual lot line is much, much shorter. Secondly, for the reasons just mentioned, the approval of the variances being requested would set a dangerous precedent for and have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. Green space would be lost and is further impacted, as Mr. Campbell indicated, by the addition of a pool and hard landscaping in the rear yard. Houses would be boxed in and shading and loss of privacy, and this is not in the public interest. Thirdly, the variances do not maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. We're a neighborhood of modest homes built in the 1930s, and the mass of the proposed dwelling is not compatible with the adjoining properties, as well as the larger streetscape. And I've included pictures. I won't have them pulled up in the interest of time, but you'll see the streetscape. The first picture is, oh, okay, if you have them, if you scroll down, that's the views from my yard. And if you scroll down, that's the sunlight coming into my yard. Keep scrolling down, please. That's our side of the road. The subject dwelling is where you see the lamppost with the white vehicle. That exactly. So that's our side of the street. The McIntyres are on the left. I'm on the right. If you scroll down once more, you'll see the houses on the other side of the street. They're 1.5 stories, 2 stories. And if you scroll down again, you'll see Mr. Campbell's house. He's the one on the very right. And the other houses are similar to the ones on the north side of Burnhamthorpe. And finally, the variances do not maintain the intent of the official plan, which emphasizes neighborhoods as stable areas, and they need to respect the existing physical character of buildings, streetscape, and open space patterns. Mr. Zabzuni referred to a number of decisions. Those are homes, most of them are homes within the village lots, which are very deep. Some of them are 200, 300 feet deep. So the variances being requested cannot be considered desirable for the development of the subject property, and cumulatively, these variances would create an undesirable negative adverse impact on the neighborhood for the reasons my neighbors have set forth. And finally, the applicant has submitted an arborist report that indicates that 2 of my trees listed in an application.
So you're going to have to wrap up, sir. You're over 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap up. Yeah. Okay, anyway, and I agree with Urban Forestry's recommendations. In closing, the one thing we've learned from the pandemic is how much we value our green and outdoor living spaces. Our homes have become our sanctuaries during the pandemic. And I'd ask that the committee please protect a portion of mine by not allowing the subject property to be overbuilt. I respectively thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Priest. Any questions for Mr. Priest before we go back to Mr. Zabzumi for his rebuttal to the 3 neighbors? Okay, if none, let's go back. Mr. Zabzuni, you have your work cut out for you. I assume you've listened to the neighbors, you've read all the letters, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I've listened to the neighbors' concerns, definitely read the letters. And what I could start with is talking about landscaping, the front yard and the rear yard landscaping. We comply with both of these. We're not asking for any variance. I want to emphasize that. And if anything, there is existing pavement at the front, I believe we're improving it with the proposed house. We're also adding an attached 2-car garage because the existing house does not have. This is very important to the homeowner. They need parking, and that's one of the opportunities with a new construction, new build, is to add parking spots, which we comply with that requirement. We're not asking for a variance there. In terms of the building envelope itself, again, the building length above grade, so the first and second floor is only 14.38 meters in length. We took into account very carefully the lot depth here. The owner, he really cares about backyard space, and that's why he sacrificed the house, the living space, and the house depth in order to have more comfortable backyard space for his family's needs. This is very important. Also, we spoke with planning, we worked with planning as well on towards the right side, which is the east side, towards 123 Burnhamthorpe. The rear deck is actually shorter in length, as that side of the lot is also shorter in length due to the angled lot rear property line. We took that into account as well. So the massing there is reduced in terms of the rear deck. And again, we worked with planning. They support our application. we have submitted a lot of supporting evidence that show that our variances are well within approvals in the neighborhood, well, even below the average of the approvals. And it's all there. And we strongly believe that this application meets the four tests, and so does city planning staff in working with them. And we're happy to work with forestry as well to review the pool design to reduce further injury if they so requested. That's not a problem. We're not removing any trees here. And all we're trying to do is design a compatible home for this lot size. And I believe we have achieved that, especially with this building length and this configuration. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zabzuni. Members, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Zabzumi, or for that matter, for any of the neighbors who spoke? Okay, and if there are none, is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
Palmer.
Thank you.
I'm concerned that this is an overbuild for this particular lot. He's used comparables. I don't know that they're comparable to this specific lot. So I'm going to recommend refusal on the basis that the requested variances are not minor in nature and do not meet the four tests.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Do I have a seconder for Mr. Palmer's motion? Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Application is unanimously refused. Thank you, Mr. Zabzumi, and thank you, neighbors.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to the next application, item number 7, which is 177 Van Dusen Boulevard. It's an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 4 variances. We have revised drawings. We don't have a yellow sheet, but we have revised drawings. An arborist report and planning is requesting, in the event of approval, that it be constructed substantially in accordance with the plan submitted October 21st as it relates to lot coverage. And we have urban forestry requesting condition number 2. Okay, the speaker for this application, we're still online here. Everyone can hear. Okay, item number 7. So Ben Domingos is the agent.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Ben Domingos here, representing the owners of 177 Van Dusen Boulevard.
Okay, welcome. Don't believe we need a presentation. Would you like to advise the committee of anything before we see if they have any questions? And just let us know, are you fine with the urban forestry and the planning conditions?
Have no issues with the planning conditions. I have no problem with tying the drawings dated October 21st, I believe it is, to the application approval, if so approved. And we have no issues with urban forestry, with the one tree being removed as a condition of approval.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Dominguez? Is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Kamarick?
I'll chime in with the motion. I believe the application meets the 4 tests and would therefore like to move approval subject to planning condition, which would be in accordance with the plans of October 21st, 21, as it relates to lot coverage, and subject to forestry condition number 2.
Thank you, Mr. Kamarick. Seconded by Ms. Alderson. Thank you. All in favor? You have unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next application is item number 8, FAULDON Court. It's an application to construct a 2-story northwest side addition that will include an attached garage. There are 2 variances. Transportation has no objection. There are 2 letters of support, and that's all that we have. The speaker for this application is Jan Petrunskowski, the agent.
Sorry, through you, Mr.
Jan?
Chair, I have not been able to get her on the line. She's having trouble getting into the meeting, so maybe we can hold her. Hold on.
Should we perhaps hear the next application while you're trying to do so? Or is it just going to be momentarily? Okay.
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
Okay. Michael, I can see you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, we can hear you too.
Okay, the issue is
Through you, Mr. Chair, Jan should be on the line.
is that Jan? Jan Petrezzi?
Yes.
Hello,
Yes.
sir. Hello. I just introduced your matter.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Is there anything you'd like to add? I just introduced, we have 2 letters of support. We have transportation with no objection. We have nothing else other than urban forestry. No urban forestry on this either. So is there anything you'd like to add before I see if committee members have any questions for you?
No, that's all basically.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion if no one has any questions. I believe the application meets the 4 tests and I move for approval. Subject to, are there any conditions?
No conditions.
Transportation is okay now. Okay, yeah, no, subject to no conditions.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that motion? Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Petresky.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next application is item number 9, 2014 Lawrence Avenue West. It's an application to construct a new duplex dwelling. There are 2 variances. Urban Forestry is requesting conditions 1 and 2. We have an arborist report. We have an advisory comments from Metrolinx, and transportation has no objection. The speaker is Enzo Locasano. Welcome, Mr. Locasano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Would you like to add anything to my introduction? We have 2 variances only.
Not really.
Impressive, we only have 2 variances.
Yeah, we worked very hard to achieve this. Yeah, the only thing is we have an application in with forestry, so we are dealing with the single tree and the removal of some trees in the back. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward application.
I agree. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Locasano, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion? And there is urban forestry conditions 1 and 2 on this. Mr. Komarek.
Yeah, I'm willing to support a motion in favor of approval, subject to forestry conditions 1 and 2. And with the Metrolinx, we're just noting that it's an advisory comment. So I leave it at that.
Yes, thank you. Seconded for that? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Locasano.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Okay, item number 10 is 74 4th Street. It's an application to construct a 2-story rear addition with a rooftop deck, a partial 3rd floor addition over the portion of the existing dwelling. And there are 7 variances. We have a revised yellow highlighted revision sheet showing the reduction of a whole 0.01 times the area lot from 223 square meters to 218.88 square meters. So it's, as well as a elimination of the second story rear platform as a variance in any event. We have Urban Forestry requesting condition number 1. Planning is recommending refusal of the application. That was November 5th. Following the revisions that they continued to have concerns with the application. Sometimes it's confusing when they make changes, but planning's refusal is subsequent to the changes. And in the additional materials, we have photos and platform examples and previous approvals at the committee, including as well as 2 support letters. And that's all we have. We have only one speaker, the agent, George Taxidis. Mr. Taxidis?
Hello, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Hello, sir.
Shall I begin?
Yes, sir. You have a negative planning report, so please advise why this matter is worthy of support. We have the revised plans as well as a revised waiver and the revised notice page with a small reduction in the variances. So please proceed.
So, sure. Briefly, we had a few discussions. We did consult with our neighbors to the north and to the south and got their support. Obviously, we also did a little bit of research and discovered that there is precedent for some of the variances that we're asking for. I did have a few discussions with the planning department to address some of their concerns, and subsequently we made a few adjustments to the original proposal, which was noted in the final report. To address some of the setbacks, we did eliminate portion of the 3rd floor addition. So the north setback was eliminated. The floor space index, we tried to look at that in detail, and it was further reductions would have compromised what the owners were hoping to achieve with this renovation. To address the height and massing, we designed the 3rd floor so that it is set further back from the existing front facade towards the center and rear portion of the existing dwelling in an attempt to mitigate its effects on the front streetscape. As well, on the rear elevation, both the 2nd and 3rd floors progressively step back from the rear facade, and again, lessening the mitigation and negative effects on neighboring yards. For the height, we recognize that building on top of the existing 2nd floor would determine the overall height. With respect to the layout and design, our goal was to achieve a standard 8-foot ceiling on that floor. As well, we sought to maintain the sloped roof lines to reflect prevailing characteristics of the neighborhood, although we have proposed a slightly lower slope to minimize the height of as much as we could. With regards to the platforms, we are still proposing 2, but we have reduced the size of the 2nd floor so that it is eliminated from the notice. And I guess to conclude, I feel that the new design reflects the ongoing development in the area while taking the prevailing characteristics of the neighborhood into consideration and thus minor in nature. Thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I apologize when I mentioned the revisions. I did not mention the elimination of the north side lot line variance or the north side eaves variance, but you have pointed that out in your presentation. Committee members, any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
I actually have a question. I'm wondering if you can tell me how it measures up to number 76, which is directly adjacent to your property. In terms of height.
In terms of height, I couldn't tell you the exact number, but it is a 2-story. Next door is 2-story, which is actually, I believe, a little bit taller than our existing structure that is there. So we'll be going slightly higher than them. They're 2.5 stories, and we're right now ours is a more of a 1.5 or 2-story building, so we're just going a little bit higher there.
Yeah, it looks like a 2-story with a 3rd-story addition. That's what it looks like to me on Google Maps, but
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's on the north side.
That's correct, yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I know we don't have any comments from neighbors. Did you or your client consult with the neighbors? We don't have any comments.
Yeah, we went, no, there were
There's
no
support letters from the 2 immediate neighbors.
Oh, there are? Oh, yes, in the additional materials, correct. Okay. Any other questions for the agent or someone ready for
I have further question, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
With regards to variance number 5 on the eaves, is that an existing situation as well?
Yes, on the south side, the setbacks would remain the same. You know, the extension would be built out to align with the existing situation, and thus the eaves would overhang slightly.
Okay, so currently you're at 0 lot line.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm willing to support this one, actually. I believe it meets the immediate context, and therefore I'm finding it to be minor and appropriate. So I would like to move approval, subject to forestry condition number 1.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Komarek.
As revised, sorry.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you. Thank you to the agent. George.
Thank you, Council. Yes, thank you, Council.
Okay. 11 and 12 have been deferred, so we'll move over to item number 13. 3 Cedar Crest Drive, an application to construct a new detached dwelling and a new detached garage. We have supporting materials, and there are 3 variances. We have renderings in the supporting material, and we have the Metrolinx advisory comments on this one. And that's all we have. We do have urban forestry conditions 1 and 2 as well. The speaker on this application is Ashley Carter, the agent. Ashley?
Hi there. Speaking on behalf of my clients.
Okay. I don't believe we need a fulsome presentation. Was there anything you'd like to advise committee members of before I see if they have any questions? We have your presentation materials, including the renderings of the property.
Yes, it's very straightforward. More or less the same use of the property with the garage detached and set at the back.
Okay, and you're okay with the urban forestry conditions 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay. Members, any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm willing to chime in with a motion. I find the application to be appropriate and meeting the 4 tests. I would therefore like to move approval, subject to forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Komarek. Seconded by Ms. Reddick. Thank you. All in favor? Another unanimous approval. Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thanks very much.
Okay, item number 14 is 73 Grovedale Avenue. It's to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances. We have revised plans. We have previous decisions. July 13, 2021, an application was refused. Transportation has no comments, as there's no transportation-related variances. And so we have setbacks, length, and no comment from planning. So speaker on this application is Raphael Take Juan Kim. who is the, I believe, the agent, or yes, the agent on this application. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee. My name is Raphael. I will be an agent to represent the case on 73 Grovedale Avenue.
Can you give us we see that there was an application back in July 2021 and the application was refused. So can you please advise how this application differs from that one? As well as making a presentation to support what you've submitted here.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, so the biggest difference from our previous application submission is that we dramatically reduced the length and depth variance. We do agree that it was major in nature. So what we did is we did more research on what's approved in the neighborhood and what's existing in the neighborhood as well. So obviously this is really long lot. It's sitting at 67 meters deep, and even with the adequate front yard setback with our proposed variances. Sorry?
No, I'm just asking the.
Can you hear us?
To get the site plan and the presentation up. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So even with our front yard setback, adequate front yard setback with our proposed.
Uh-oh. Did we lose the room again?
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
Yes, sir. We had lost
And
you.
also
We lost you for the last 15 seconds. We haven't heard anything in the last 15 seconds. If you want to.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
We're having real problems. We keep losing the room here.
Oh,
we're back up. Members, you can hear?
well, yes. One sec. Let me try the mic.
Okay, no, we can hear you now. It wasn't you. It wasn't.
Okay, perfect. Can you hear me now?
Yes. It wasn't
Perfect.
you. It was
Thank
us.
you.
So I see you've reduced the length from the last time, and the depth. You were 20. Were much greater. You had. You're now 25.29 in length and 22.34 in where 17 is permitted. Previously, in your last application, you had a length of 30.81. So you're indicating, because I'd asked how it's different. So please continue.
Yes, and also I'd like to point out there are several existing properties and approved application in the neighborhood, some even on the same street, with a similar magnitude of the lot size, building size, length, and side setbacks. So we strongly believe that our proposal is minor in nature at this point. And there are a list of properties, addresses that I can give out if the community requires. And also, yeah, that's.
Okay, so you haven't included those precedents in your presentation materials, but let's see if anyone has any questions for you. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Kim?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, please.
Yes.
With regards to variance 1, this is probably just, I'm just trying to understand. In your July application, you listed the minimum requirement as 1.5 meters. Your current application states the minimum requirement as 1.8 meters. Do you know which one is correct?
I apologize. This 1.5 is the correct one.
So in our current application, you're actually more compliant than you're.
Absolutely, yes.
To be.
So is that a staff error that it said that the minimum required side yard is 1.8 and in fact it's 1.5? So perhaps if that is the case, Ms. Bartosik, perhaps that should be amended. So it shows it's
We can fix it.
Yeah,
but
it's a smaller
We can
variance.
fix it. It wasn't a staff error. The applicant filled out a waiver.
Okay, but in any event, I don't think we have a notice problem because it actually makes the variance less and not more.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Kamarick. Very observant of you. Any other questions? And if no other questions, is someone ready for a motion? Mr. Kamarick.
While I'm at it, I'll be willing to move approval, seeing that I believe the application is appropriate, meets the 4 test, and without conditions.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Application is unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is item number 1518 Dunedin Drive. It's an application to construct a one-story rear addition, a new covered rear deck, and a new rear shed. There are 5 variances. We have urban forestry requesting conditions 2 and 5. We have supporting materials and 2 letters support from both adjacent neighbors at 20 and at 16, and that's all we have. The speaker on this application is Stephen Lindy, the agent.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Stephen Lindy, architect and agent of the proposal. If I may direct the committee's attention to the site plan, which is probably page 3 of the submitted drawings. The existing is a 2-story detached dwelling. The proposed is a 1-story addition at the rear and at the side, a covered rear deck and a rear shed. We are proposing a 5-foot, 1.52 meter rear addition to the family room at ground floor and a 3.05 meter deep deck with a stair access to the garden. In addition, behind the existing garage is a 1-story addition at rear, measuring 12'8" by 11'2". I don't have the metric conversion exactly right in front of me. I can look at it. Located at the inside corner of the existing house. And finally, a rear accessory storage shed. The side yard setbacks proposed on both north side 0.95 meters and south side 0.98 meters will be in line with the existing house. The proposed deck will also be in line with the existing house line on the sides. And the proposed addition will also be aligned with the existing house, meaning the side yard setbacks are unchanged on both sides. We have 2 letters of support and direct adjacent neighbors from 16 Dunedin to the south and 20 Dunedin to the north. As mentioned, the proposed is all at rear. There are no variances to the front of the house. In the supporting material, we have submitted variance precedences for lot coverage, floor space index, and side yard setback.
Okay, thank you, sir. Would
believe
you
that
approach
should wrap
any of
it
the
up. Thank
neighbors? Sorry, you approach the neighbors behind because it's a rear addition on Strath. I see you have both adjacent, which is great, and there doesn't seem to be any issue with this. Okay, let's see. Committee members, any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion if no one has any questions. I just want to commend the applicant for keeping up this gorgeous old home. We don't see enough of this in the city, so thank you for that. And I believe the variances requested are minor and support them wholeheartedly with no conditions.
Thank you.
I believe there's an urban forestry.
Yeah, urban forestry.
Sorry,
Condition
urban
2.
forestry condition number 2.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alderson. Seconder for that. Ms. Reddick, thank you. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lindy.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is item number 1624 Elliott Avenue. It's construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, and there are 3 variances. Urban Forestry is looking for a refusal. Forest and otherwise, they want us to deny variances 1 and 2, and we have 7 letters of opposition, and that's all we have. The speaker for this application is, we have Farzan Mizami Assad, the agent, and as well as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 neighbors registered to speak, 1 on Bannon and 4 on Elliott. Are they all with us, or is there anyone who is? Okay, in any event, let's hear first from the agent.
Mr. Chair, before we go forward, I'd like to ask a clarification of staff before we go forward on this matter. With regards to notice, is a current requirement that the notice must be posted in the front yard, or is it sufficient to attach it to the front door?
We recommend outside. If it is in the window or door, then it should be visible.
Because
And
I believe there was a question raised about proper notice on this application. And driving by the site yesterday, I noticed that it is not posted in the front lawn on a post as has been the practice. So I just wanted to know whether that's sufficient notice, having it posted on front door only.
Okay, we do have 7 letters of opposition and 5 people registered to speak, so I guess it did come to people's attention. That would be my comment. Have they filled out the declaration? They've signed a declaration that they posted the notice, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
yes, they have. I'm checking. Yeah, they put the sign on the front door, and it isn't a glass door, it's on the outside. But I don't have enough context. I only see the house. I don't know how far it is from the street. But they have signed the affidavit and provided proof of posting the sign.
Just one of the people speaking in opposition raised the issue, and, you know, driving by, I agree with the comments that it is hard to see from the street.
Okay, I mean, the applicant can address that. I don't imagine any of the signs are fully legible if you're driving by. It's more meant for anybody walking past. If they notice it, they can walk up. And
No, that's fine. I just want to clarify whether there was a technical requirement to actually post it in the front line. If there isn't, then that's fine. Let's go forward.
Okay, so we can proceed. You're not making a motion to ask that it be deferred for improper notice. We have a sign. We do have 7 letters of opposition and 5 people here to speak. So I would imagine that probably on a certain percentage of all of our applications, that same argument could perhaps be made in other applications. Okay, so let's hear from Mr. Azad, and then we'll hear from the
Hi.
neighbors.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm representing the owner of the property. I just want to jump into it. We believe the proposal is not asking anything more than what is accepted in the neighborhood. If I can refer you to the site plan, I can more be specific about the comments that I'm going to discuss.
Yeah, sir, can you also try to speak a little louder? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, first of all, before we get into the site plan and the comments about it, about the notice, yeah, it's on the front door. There are, and we submitted the picture to the city staff, and as you mentioned, we have received a lot of attentions for the proposal. So I believe our neighbors are aware of it. Okay, the site plan. I think there are a couple of misunderstandings about what you are asking with our neighbors. The first thing is about the length of the building. As you see, the front property line of our building is not a straight line. And our neighbor on the north is almost 9.5 meters further back from our neighbor on the south. So, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, as you see, we try to work with the context with the neighboring properties. So that's why we cut the building in half, and half of the building on the north is 1.2 meters further to the west than the bottom half of the proposal. So it means we are allowed to the building to be, I think the length of the building is approved for the 17 meters, and we are asking for 18.5. And I'm saying that 1.2 meters of it is just because these two portions of the buildings are separating from each other, just to make sure that we are working with the context and try to make it more look like that we are playing with the neighboring around and the street which is in the angle and it's not parallel to our building. And that's about it. So I think if we just consider 1.2 meters of the property of the change into the shape, so we are just asking for 300 millimeters or extra length of the building. The other item is about the Soffit height, which is at 7 meters. I believe there is a misunderstanding that our neighbors assume that it means that we are asking.
Uh-oh. Oh, we lost them again? I'm going to have to ask for a 5-minute break after this.
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
It's like the 6th time we've lost the room. Well, I think maybe we have to, if it's not this, we should be meeting downtown.
Neighborhood. The soffit should be at 6.5, but the main walls can be 7 meters plus the thickness of the roof, which is usually reached to 7.5. It means if the main wall is at 7.5, the soffit should be at 6.5. It means that the eaves should go 1 meter down. So it doesn't mean that the building is that we are proposing is taller than what it's supposed to be. It means the soffit is not 1 meter lower than the main walls. That's just it. I don't think it's going to make any extra shadow. Even if it's not making less shadow. I don't think it's just about it.
Sir, can you wrap up, please? Yeah.
Of course, and the last thing is about the area. We are not asking for any more coverage. The coverage that we are proposing is matching with what the zoning bylaw is, and we are asking for having it in just in 2-story. It just got a little bit more than that because the zoning examiner mentioned that the area of the parking garage that we are having is going to be included in the FSI calculation and the GFA calculation, which, as you know, is not typical. So yes, the last thing that our neighbors were mentioning is
Yes, sir, I'm sorry, you're out of time. Okay?
Okay.
We got to keep moving.
Sure.
So was the last thing the neighbors were mentioning is what?
Is about that it is not a 2-story building, it's a 2.5-story building. Just want to mention that it is 2-story building. The garage doesn't consider as a 1-story. And also, based on the zoning of the neighborhood, the number of the stories are not limited based on the zoning that we have. That's it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Staff, before we hear from the neighbors, the applicant mentioned something about that the garage normally is not included in the FSI, but in this case it is. Can you just, is that correct? Or is it just a standard?
So there are a lot of pockets in Etobicoke that the garage area is included in the floor space index, and that's why the permitted floor space index was increased. So typical Etobicoke, you're allowed 0.45. In this case, they're allowed 0.5, but it does include the area of a garage.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So let's now, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Azad before we hear from the neighbors? Okay, so the first neighbor on the list is Malad Mirfakaria at 28 Bannon. I apologize for the pronunciation. We'll just call you Malad.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I actually don't have him on the line, but I do have a someone who added, and I just want to see what item they want to speak to. Can I do that? Oh, you're probably right. So Malad is not on the line.
Okay, so he was at 28 Bannon, so let's move on to Chris Gray at 26 Elliott.
I have a caller for 416355. What item are you here to speak to?
Hi, it's Chris Gray here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah,
You're right next door at number 26. You're right next door.
Yes, we're at 26 Elliott. First of all, I just want to say our neighbors are nice people. We have no issue with them. But for us, the main concern is that we don't see this as being a minor variance. Taking the proposed gross floor area from 0.5 times to 0.7 times is nearly a 40% increase. So this is way out of whack for what's been going on in our neighborhood. For us personally, it will impede our view from our back patio, as well as from our windows in our back family room. It will impede on our space outside and block our view going up. We believe that this house, in fact, is 2.5 stories. If you look at the front door there, and you look at the size and the height of the windows, you'll see that this house certainly appears to be above grade. So we believe that basically the size of this house, how it fits in on the street, we just think that this is not good for us. It's not good for our privacy. It's not good for our view. The other thing I'd just like to add briefly is that our neighbors on the other side of this house, Lauren and Joanne Blunt, who are elderly, asked me to write on their behalf, and they've included their phone number there. They're very concerned because this will completely eliminate any natural light coming into their house. They'll be completely blocked out. And because they're elderly and housebound, this is something that's a real concern to them. Lastly, I did include a picture from the street there, if you scroll down a little bit, and you'll see that the front door is set back so far and behind a bush. By the time cars and so on are parked there, the sign, just for whatever it's worth, is really not visible from the street.
Okay. Anything else substantive? I think we've determined that enough people are here, and the most directly affected people, that notwithstanding the fact that I agree with you looking at this picture, but it seemed to have come to people's attention in any case. But we
Yes.
hear you with respect
That's
to
a good
other
point.
issues with the, and thank you for speaking on behalf of us. You're speaking on behalf of the neighbor on the other side as well.
Correct. Lauren and Joanna Blunt.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Gray before we move on to the next speaker? Okay, the next speaker are the Kims, Mr. or Mrs. at 25 Elliott, across the street.
Hello, it's Henry Kim here from 25 Elliott. Just regarding that sign, I don't want to belabor the point, but I measured it was 17 meters from the street. You have 7 objections from neighbors, and I think you'd have a lot more if that sign was actually visible. Secondly, one other aspect of this is none of the neighbors were consulted on this development. My main concern, though, is that, according to the official plan, it states that physical changes to our established neighborhoods must be sensitive, gradual, and fit the existing physical character. Key objective of this plan is that the new development respect and reinforce the general physical patterns in a neighborhood. My position is that this does not meet the characteristics of the neighborhood. There are existing homes. There are 28 homes on Elliott Ave. It's a small street. 24 of them have been renovated. When we moved in, I've lived here for almost 30 years. When we moved in, there was almost all bungalows. They've all had major renovations or second-story homes, and every one of them have respected the character of the neighborhood with only minor variances. Particularly, the setback from the front is all consistent, especially on that side of the building or side of the street. There are no trenched driveways, below grade garages on any of the houses. And essentially what that does with that trenched driveway and the elevated ground floor is, as Mr. Gray has pointed out, is it's essentially creating a 3-story building, which is non-existent on this street. In addition to that, as Mr. Grace pointed out, the proposed development is on the south side of Mr. and Mrs. Blunt's home, which again is a bungalow. So being on the south side will completely block any kind of light, both into their house and on their garden, front and rear. So for those reasons, one additional thing I wanted to point out is we did speak to our city councilor, Mark Grimes, and his staff. Their concern again was the driveway and whether or not that constituted a reverse slope. They have asked transportation to comment on that, but they have not replied. So we'd like an opportunity for them to review the plan and the driveway and comment as well. So for those various reasons, I'm requesting that the committee reject this proposal.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just to point out, we don't have any comments from the area councillor, Mr. Grimes, or from transportation on this application. Next speaker is Leslie Vandenberg at 27, Mr. Kim's neighbor. Also right across, also across the street a little further over.
Hi, it's Brad Walters. I am Leslie Vandenberg's husband. I'm the co-owner at 27 Elliott.
Okay. Sorry, your name again for the record, sir?
Brad.
Yep.
Walters, W-A-L-T-E-R-S. I sent in an objection letter as well. I corroborate the fact that I was not consulted and my wife was not consulted, and so I believe none of the neighbors were consulted on this application. What I would say in support of what my neighbors have said also is this: the angled front of the house is not in keeping with the characteristic of the neighborhood. That is a significant change, and I think it's obviously done to maximize their ability to utilize the space, which I understand, but at the same time, it's not in keeping with the characteristic of the neighborhood. And again, the gross floor area limit is excessive. It's well above the limit of 270 square meters. And so in that regard, again, we're looking at something that is anomalous. And I did not see the sign at the front. I know we're done with that point, but I certainly only found out about this because of the correspondence sent in from the city. So again, I request that the committee reject this application.
Okay, thank you, sir. And just to let you know, Mr. Walters' letter is in number 7. It's the 7th letter in our package. Okay, and I'll ask Mr. Walters that, and I'll ask the applicant as well. Do you know any other examples of 0.7 GFA on the street or in even the surrounding streets?
Are you asking me if I'm aware of a...
Yeah. Like you're saying it's excessive, so at 0.7, you don't believe there's anyone at 0.7. I'm going to ask the agent.
I don't believe so. My calculation, I know Mr. Gray said 40%. I think at 377.5 square meters,
yes,
being above the 270 limit, that's by my calculation 33.13%. So I believe that's excessive. In my perspective, a third over the limit, that's too much.
Right, okay, yeah, you're looking at the percentage from 270 to 377, but that's the 0.7, so that would be comparable. So I'll ask that as well to the other to the agent when he in his rebuttal. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Walters before we move on? Okay, so the last speaker is Patrick Monahan at 20 Elliott. And Mr. Elliott is, Mr. Monahan is 2 houses removed. He's next to the neighbor at 22, who we've also heard from. Okay, do we have...
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just calling him right now.
Okay. And Mr. Monahan and his wife letter is at opposition letter number 6 on our list.
Yeah.
Mr. Monahan? Hello? Did we lose the room again? Okay. Mr. Monahan? Okay, in any event, Mr. Monahan's letter is at number 6.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to try and call the first person who wanted to speak in opposition from 28 Bannon, Malad.
Okay, you found Malad?
Yeah, I'm just going to try calling him.
Well, we do at least have a letter from Mr. Monahan.
Did we lose the room? We lost the room again, and nobody answered.
Okay, well.
So.
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
So I think we're good. We're good.
Okay, we're good. Do we have Malad on the line or Mr. Monahan? Okay, so we don't have 28 Bannon. We don't have 20 Elliott. We do have a letter from 20 Elliott.
We have Leslie from 27.
We already heard from Mr. Walters, who's Leslie's spouse. We're not hearing from Leslie.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
Yeah, so we had Patrick Monahan, letter number 6, and we have Malad at 28 Bannon. So if we can't hear from them, what can I tell you? We do have a letter at least, which puts forth his position. He is one house over. The neighbor at Bannon is sort of on the key lot on the side street in terms of assessing the impact on the various speakers. 28 Bannon is sort of the side street, or it's actually he's right at the corner of Watford and Bannon, so I guess it is visible. So anyway, let's go back then to Mr. Azad, the agent, to respond to the concerns of the neighbors, and specifically if you can advise me at the point 7, whereas point 5, whether there is precedent for that in this pocket of Etobicoke.
I just want to, I have a list here, a number of applications that has been approved, that all of them are asking for more areas than what we have asked. I have 29 Walford Road, which is a street behind us. We can see the building from our backyard.
Yes.
So they are asking for 72% FSI.
Which address, sir?
29 Walford Road.
29, yes. Did they have? What do you mean they're asking? Did they have an application? Did they have a decision, or is this a pending application?
No, it has been approved already. It's for a long time ago. On
So,
the
sorry,
on
what
the
was it
other,
approved for?
it's 72%, and the lot
Was that on a
coverage
new
is
build or on an addition? Like, if you don't have the
That's a new
decision
build.
before us, it's very hard for us to listen to these numbers and have anything. You haven't provided these precedents to us in written form?
Well, actually, I was working with the planner of on the project, and when we were discussing to revise the drawings, we were discussing about these cases. So they were asking for the 72% for the FSI. We have one at 85 Kingsway Crest, which they were asking for the 71%, and the lot coverage 35%. Recently, 70 Walford Road, which is really close to us. They asked for actually 1.08 FSI.
They asked, sir, you know what? Unless you have the decisions before us, because I can't put it in context whether it's a new build or it's an addition. It's an addition that's very small that is already at, let's say, 0.68, and it's going to 7. We have no way of assessing that is comparable unless you have giving us the decisions in our package, and we don't have that. So the one at 29 on the street behind, you haven't told me whether that's a new build or it's a series of additions.
That's
Every
a new
case
build.
is different.
All of them are new builds.
Okay. Anyway, sorry for asking. Just respond to your normal rebuttal to what you've heard from the other neighbors, and we'll leave that issue alone of whether you can find any that are at 0.7. Just please continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to clear a few notes that we have heard. One about the below grade garage. Our garage is not below grade. It's above grade. So I don't see any issue in that regard. About one of the neighbors mentioned it's going to be a more than 2-story building. I specified the garage is not considered as a 1-story, and even if it is, there is no limit for the stories based on the zoning. But the main concern that I heard was about the shadow on the north property. We are not asking for more height than what the zoning is considered. So in terms of height, we don't think that we are making an issue. In terms of the location of the building and the shape of the building, as I said at the beginning, cutting the building in half and try to just follow the angle of the street. I think the location is helping to less shadow on the more property, which is causing us more length because of the break on the shape, but it is making less shadow on the north. If we want to make it square, we're gonna more shadow on the north or opposite side on the west side. So I don't think that would be the case too. And about area, as I said, there are examples around our property that they are approved for more than 0.7 FSI. And I believe what we are asking is to just have whatever the coverage is approved, that we can have it in 2-story.
Okay, are you done, sir?
I am.
At the end of your submission, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Azad or any of the neighbors, or is someone ready to weigh in with a motion?
I'm going to try one question, and please indulge me. does Mr. Assad know how many, like, I'm trying to understand the context of the 0.7, and I don't believe that argument. My only concern is on the FSI, and is that appropriate? Is that comparable? And I believe the presenter has not made that clear to us. I don't see any approvals that are in that range. I'm assuming since planning hasn't put it out there that it's not out of line, but I can't make that assessment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Comeric. So is that a question perhaps Mr. Razad can respond to that? I see he has not given us no presentation materials. The precedents he referred to or attempted to refer to were not in any context. We don't have the written decision. It's impossible for us to assess if he says someone's looking for 1 point something, whether it was some special circumstance.
don't know whether that was
29,
approved or-
he hasn't told if that's a new build or additions, so we don't know what else they were asking for. So I would tend to agree with you in terms of we don't have any context for the 0.7. We do know that we do not have a negative report from city planning. That is something that we do not have.
Yes, actually, that's probably my mistake that I didn't provide those information. I thought those are the public knowledge that are on the city's website. So I didn't provide those information on the application, but I have a list here in front of me that all of them are asking for more coverage that we are not asking for. And all of the FSIs are more than 0.7 that we are asking. And at the, again, when I said at the beginning, on the FSI that we are considering right now, it includes the garage area also.
Yeah, first of all, it is gross floor area, not FSI. That's the variance. And you have advised that the garage is included. Do you know what it would be? What it would be if the garage was not included, Mr. Azad? Ballpark.
I think, Mr. Chair, that's irrelevant because all of the examples in that area will have included their garages.
That's
actually just want to clarify on that point. No, actually, the 29 Walford that I just talked about, the 17 Walford that I just mentioned, and none of them includes the area of the garage. It's just specifically for that site.
Aha, so
Not
the
probably
one you
not that
mentioned
side,
did
but
not include, so you're saying that number 29 Watford behind, in the street behind, at 0.7 whatever that you've advised, we don't have a copy of it, you're saying that one did not include the garage?
no.
I asked the Secretary Treasurer, and she said there are certain pockets of Etobicoke where it does count. Be surprising to think that the street behind is in a different area, but if you're telling us that's the case, so in fact that it does not support your argument. It goes counter because, or that one you're saying would be even bigger if the garage was counted. In any
No,
event,
Mr. Chair, I've looked up any minor variances on Walford and they all include the garage.
okay, so it's apples to apples. We're talking apples to apples, as Mr. Comeric pointed out. Okay, Mr. Comeric, any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion? And, Madam Secretary, do we know if the 29 Watford was a new build or a series of additions?
29 Walford?
Yes, Watford. Walford, yes, Walford. No, because you said you checked it and it includes
Through
the
you, Mr.
garage.
Chair, it is a brand new build.
It is a brand new build. Okay, so it is comparable, but we don't have a copy of that decision about what the other variances are, so it's, without having a copy of it before us, I guess it is of somewhat limited value, but we don't know what the other variances were. Is someone ready to make a motion? Mr. Comeric.
I think I'm ready to make a motion for refusal because I don't have the context of how this fits into the immediate neighborhood. And without that, I'm going to have to say it doesn't meet the immediate test of the immediate context.
Okay, thank you. So that's a motion to refuse the application. We have a seconder for that motion. Ms. Alderson, all in favor? It's unanimous. The application is refused. Thank you, Mr. Azad, and thank you to the neighbors on Elliott. Item 17 has been deferred. We have 18, 19, and 20 left for this morning. And I'm just going to ask you to indulge in a 5-minute break. We'll return at 1 p.m. to conclude the morning agenda. Okay, 5 minutes.
Hello, Mayor John Tory here. I'm delighted to extend my most sincere greetings to all of you virtually attending the city's 9th annual Civic Gala in support of United Way. I remember going to the first one a few years ago, and it was a real one, as it were, an in-person one. And, you know, I'd never seen all the people that I work with every day. They absolutely fabulous.
Let's cut the video, and then so there'll be welcome back SLT video, and then Loud, I guess you're going to introduce the city manager, right? Yeah.
Hey, Adam.
So it's going to be, I'll do the pinning that day. And then so Markham, you be Chris Murray. So be Lauda and then be Chris Murray.
Okay, is someone introducing me?
Lauda's going to introduce you. You're Lauda and Chris Murray.
Okay. Is that in here? Oh, introducing SLT video, and then that's okay. Just making sure. Then you're good. Oh, then you'll introduce Chris Murray, and then there's me. Okay. And I will do greetings to everyone on this lovely Civic Gala, and I will transition over to Mayor Tory for his lovely video message.
And you know what? I'm just thinking, Lauda, can we just zoom in on Markham for a second? Like a little bit more up close and personal? Up close and personal. I'm always thinking, because this is what we do for Brad, because he could be so far away and everybody else is close, so it's kind of nice to have him a little bit more, the person up a little bit closer.
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
We'll have to maybe call when each speaker's up. You might have to adjust up or down depending on their height or whatever, right? Okay. All right, so you introduce Chris Murray, and then we'll do the greetings from Mayor Tory. So then, Mandy, you share the video.
Go Mayor Tory video.
And yeah, play Mary Tory
Mary Tory.
I'm like tongue tied today. And then so Mandy, when you play the day of, is there any way that you don't need to click?
Well, I'll have my other monitors. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's play him for 10 seconds.
Hey. Mayor John Tory here. I'm delighted to extend my most sincere greetings to all of you virtually attending the city's 9th annual Civic Gala in support of United Way. I remember going to the first one.
Stop the video. And then I'm going to start pinning people.
Laura introducing United Way segment.
Yeah. And we can even actually have active speaker like this, Lauda, so the person who's actively speaking, right? That looks kind of cool. If you're sitting in your seat, but it mostly sounds like you're going to be standing up there, right? So we might not have your camera on. Which is me, yeah. No, I can plug a ton in there. There's 8 people I can fit on stage at once.
You can pin who you want to be in there too, right?
And then Mandy, can you play a video for a second? I just want to show her what it looks like if we play the video side by side.
Hello, Mayor John Tory here. I'm delighted to extend my most sincere greetings to all virtually attending the city.
We don't need to have the video necessarily full screen. Like for Mayor Tory, him just being on the side is fine, but it's up to you.
of my past and some alcohol and drug addiction, I ended up living in the streets for 4 years. I would always
Barb?
utilize any resources out there, like food banks, shelters.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, on our next application, item 18, we have 2 revision pages. Is it the second one? I see the first one. One of them corrects the permitted gross floor area at 3.07.5, which was a correction because
It should be the first one.
the first.
Or sorry, but yeah, it appears first because they've incorporated the change, but then they've eliminated variance number 6.
6, right. So 6 is out, and there's a correction to the permitted at 307.5 square meters, whereas 375 is
Correct.
requested. Okay, so it's the
Yeah.
first revision, members. Okay, so our next application is item number 18, 3 Oregon Trail. It's an application. Okay. It's to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front porch, a new rear deck, and a new attached garage. There were 6 variances. There are now 5. We have the yellow. We have 2 of them, but we're looking at the first revision page where they eliminated variance number 6. The speaker on this application is Raman Sandhu, and Urban Forestry is requesting a refusal. And Forestry is looking to deny variance 6. Transportation had requested a deferral, but now I guess they've withdrawn that variance, and we also have 4 letters of support. Mr. Sandhu?
Good afternoon, members of committee, Chairman. So I'm Raman Sandhu. I'll be representing myself as the owner and designer for 3 Oregon Trail.
Okay. I don't think we need a full presentation here. There's no one else here with concerns. Other than the Urban Forestry, perhaps you have to address the issue with Urban Forestry.
Yeah, so Urban Forestry had an issue with the new location of the garage and the driveway, and with us keeping the existing garage as is, that variance is gone and that issue is gone as well.
So what about the city tree? There's reference.
So there is actually no city tree. They were actually making a reference of if we put a driveway there, they would lose a potential space for planting a tree. So they were asking me to pay the balance. So one of the potential tree is going away. But since I'm not doing that, so there's no variance, no payments needed. There is no existing tree. And we're like, it's all grass, no tree at all at that location.
Okay. And we no longer have the concern about the transportation. We have your email.
Yes. So as per my email, the existing garage is going to remain in its original location. So they had issue with number 6. Number 6 is gone.
Right. Okay. So that's your memo that you sent in an email November the 5th, which is shown on the bookmark there. Okay, committee members, any questions for the agent, or is someone ready for a motion?
Just wanted to get a clarification. The existing garage is staying. So do we have drawings that reflect that?
Yeah, so if you see the floor plans provided, the existing garage, the existing floor plans are provided before the proposed ones. You will see the location of existing garage. And if you go to page number, go down on 2nd or 3rd page, I have the garage. So go down. Yeah, this is where we have the garage. This is the existing garage. And if you see the proposed floor plans, the garage remains as is. in the basement.
Sorry. The garage is not existing. The existing garage is at grade. The new garage will be below grade, which is what the issue is with transportation services.
No, actually, so the proposal is if you see the floor plan, we are raising the main floor. So we will have enough space to put the garage, to put the main floor on top of the garage. So it's gonna be at same level as the elevation on the property line as in front of the garage. So you see.
No, your established grade is higher than the level of the garage. And if you look at Google Street View, the grade is flat, completely flat. So
No,
the garage will be going under.
If
You're
you see,
misleading the member.
no. If you see the street view, the garage, the driveway slants up towards the garage. We will be just flattening the driveway, so it is straight from the property line to the garage. But the location of the garage is where it is right now. Like if you go to the street view, you will see that it is going up towards the house, the driveway.
Okay. Mr. Kamarick, you have the answer to your question? Are there any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion?
Yeah, so if you see the grade is going up towards the house, it's almost 7 to 8 inches. We will be just flattening the driveway and then raising the main floor so we can get the garage between the main floor and the basement.
But your application is only to build a second story, not to touch the main floor. And if that's the case, then this is now a new dwelling.
No, it is not. Because if you see the zoning notice, that we are raising the main floor walls, but we are keeping more than 50% of the existing walls, which helps us to qualify for this being as an addition, not a new house. Like if you go to the proposed main floor, yeah, right here. No, main floor, yeah, right here. So you enter the porch, and then I have 4 steps going up. So the main floor is being raised by 4 or 5 steps to accommodate the garage, which is right now in the middle. And after that, the main floor will be on top of the garage.
Okay, in any event, if it is considered a new build, then you'd have to come back.
No, it is not a new build. It is an addition. I made sure that the zoning certificate professional knew this. That's how we came to the zoning certificate. These are the exact drawings they saw.
Is someone speaking in the background, sir?
Right now, I'm in an airport, and I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. So that's
okay. Someone behind you. Okay.
Yeah, there's a boarding call.
Okay. Any other questions, or is someone ready for a motion? Ms. Bartosik, would you like to weigh in just to summarize what you had to say for the benefit of the members?
I'm just saying, from the looks of it and the established grade, it looks like it's now lower than what the current grade is, because based on Google Street View, it's a completely flat site.
Listen, so if you see where the existing driveway is, the level of the walkway is lower than where the garage door is. So there's a great increase when we go towards the garage. Like you drive up towards the garage. We will be just making it flat And as per bylaw, we are required 2 meters height in the garage. If we can provide that, we qualify perfectly in terms of the garage, which we are planning to achieve. And by doing that, and also the existing main floor is getting raised, but the exterior walls, we are keeping all of them as is with occasional windows or door alterations. So
All right, the reason Transportation Services is asking for a deferral is your plans do not make sense. If looking at this Google Street View, the site is completely flat. Looking at your elevation along this side, it shows that established grade is higher than the floor level of that garage. So something doesn't make sense, and that is why Transportation Services has asked for a deferral, because they've noted an issue with your plan.
So
if
transportation deferral, Barb, is not due to the variance number 6, which is now eliminated. You're saying it was for that purpose as well. Looking
Yeah,
at
it's based on the revised plans.
if committee wants to give us an approval based on the condition of transportation, we are happy to assist them and get it sorted out before the building permit is issued.
Yes, sir. I'm just reading from the transportation. It says, according to the submitted site plan A100, it appears that the proposed garage is above the grade of the existing municipal sideback. A 2% slope downward from the garage to the street is shown on the site plan. However, on the proposed basement plan, the proposed integral garage is identified as being in the basement level, and in front elevation A107, the bottom of the garage is identified as being below established grade, et cetera, et cetera. So the site plan is not consistent with the proposed building plans, which is not acceptable. So, you know, we spent a lot of time on it. It sounds like you should probably be deferring this to resolve this based on the points listed, number 6. Allow the applicant an opportunity to provide revised drawings to the satisfaction of transportation service to address the following, and there's 6 points. So perhaps, sir, you should be considering and asking for this matter to be deferred, even though we've now spent 15 minutes hearing it. Would you like to defer or proceed? Are we, does everyone still hear us? Okay. Did we lose the room again or no?
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
I prefer to make a motion if there's no questions about this.
Sorry, we lost communication, so the last 30 seconds we haven't heard anything. The last thing I believe I was saying that we have this, reading out this transportation condition with the 6 points, and I was suggesting to the applicant that even though we've spent 15 minutes on this, that he would probably be well advised to take a deferral to deal with this issue. Because I thought that the issue was that the transportation condition was no longer relevant because they eliminated variance 6, but that is clearly not the case. There is this issue which has been identified. So, Mr. Mr. Sandhu.
Yes, sir.
I suggest you wish to take the deferral.
Committee members, it's the problem is the timeline. This house we are planning to.
Okay, sir. Yes or no? Do you want a deferral? Or do you want the committee to consider this application as it stands right now?
It would be great if committee considers the application with the conditions of transportation imposed on us going forward.
I don't think transportation is saying you can comply with these 6 things after an approval. They want it deferred to address these matters. So that's not going to happen. Either you proceed or you defer, and I need a decision from you.
This is the final boarding call for Canada Crest, Flight 79, 30.
If that's the case, then I guess we have to go with deferral.
It's up to you.
No, I mean.
Oh, it's, you know what, can I move a motion for deferral? Because
second.
I've got I'm totally confused about these drawings. I mean,
I was just suggesting, I agree, unless he wants a refusal or he wants you to make a decision based on what's before us. So I gave him the option. You want to make a motion for deferral? That's fine. Moved deferral by Mr. Komarek, seconded by Ms. Ruddick. All in favor of the deferral? Okay, the matter is deferred. You can work these matters out and then come back and put it back on the agenda, and there will be a re-notification.
Confusion of transportation. I can't figure this out.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the matter's deferred. Next application is item number 19, 721 Richgrove Drive, 610 and 620 Martin Grove Road. This is an application to permit a parking deficiency that will accommodate a proposed 20-story residential rental apartment building. I'm not going to read out the gist of it. We have a site-specific zoning bylaw. We have 2 previous decisions, a parking study, a cover letter, applicant's presentation, Ravines is advised there's no condition. Planning is looking for conditions, 2 conditions in the event of approval. Transportation is looking for, yeah, that's right. Transportation, I was going to actually deal with the deferral time. Transportation was looking for a deferral as set out in their memo dated November the 9th. So that's perhaps we should deal that at the outset. Given that it's a transportation, that's the only nexus. It's a parking deficiency, and transportation is looking for a deferral as set out in their memo. So let's first hear from the agent.
Mr. Chair, we received an updated memo this morning. So we'll try to share that with you, where they're now asking for conditions only.
Okay.
It just came in this morning.
Okay, I was going to check in with the agent, Matthew Schuman, and see if he wanted the deferral, but you're saying that is now, they've now changed where they're looking for conditions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Perhaps I can help as the Deputy Secretary scrolls through the updated memo. Yes, as we have a presentation, I'm happy to go through it or answer any questions. This is the last building on an infill site. The request for the parking rates reduction is in line with the city's parking rates and the citywide bylaw for sites near transit. This is going to be across the street from the Martin Grove station on the new Eglinton West LRT. We have no concerns with city planning's condition. With respect to this new memo from transportation, they had asked us to provide a bit of additional information. We have done so, and that resulted in this report. The variances requested in terms of the parking rates on the following page are the same as those in the transportation memo. Transportation Services has referred to a condition, and I think that's appropriate for the car share variances here to be set out as a condition, if that's what transportation is asking for.
Okay, so now these if we can get the other memo that came in this morning back up, Nicole. So they're now suggesting that those conditions be imposed instead of a deferral, and that you are in agreement with that. And you're also okay with the
yes, that's right, Mr. Chair.
And you're okay with the 2 planning conditions as well.
Yes, there is a pending site plan application, and so the planning conditions would just update that process if this were to be approved today.
Okay. And the Metrolinks, that's just advisory. We do not include those as conditions. It's not from the city. Okay, committee members, any questions for Mr. Schuman? I don't believe we need a
question, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I do have a question. I do have a question. I was perfectly fine with the reduction in the resident parking. My issue was around the reduction in the visitor parking, and I believe the applicant made, so in their submission, there was reference to a condo at 700 Bay Street or something like that. Are you suggesting that's a proxy for your location?
There were a number of proxies in the report. The closest one is a site at 4000 Eglinton, which is near the Royal York Station, or where the Royal York Station is planned to be on the Eglinton LRT line.
Yeah, and that line is years and years out, but in any case, I had an issue with the reduction in the parking, but if transportation is now saying that they're okay with it, then I'll take that back.
Okay. So can we get those suggested conditions this morning from
Can I
transportation?
like to know what the conditions are, what transportation's conditions are, and do they address that?
No, because that'll be part of any approval to make it, add those as conditions, right? You go down to the next previous page. Okay.
It's just those 4 conditions, the parking ratios, the car share.
Yeah, is that okay? Is anyone have any further questions for Mr. Schuman, or is someone ready for a motion? Ms. Reddick?
I'm prepared to make a motion. Yeah, prepared to make a motion that we accept this application, find them consistent with the 4 tests, subject to the conditions from planning and the conditions on transportation from the memo received today.
Okay, thank you. Seconded for Ms. Reddick's motion. Mr. Palmer, thank you. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Schuman.
Thank you, committee.
Okay, our last application of the morning is item number 20. 45 Smithwood Drive, an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 4 variances. We have an arborist report. Transportation has advised that the proposed driveway width variance is acceptable. And we have urban, no, that's all we have. Speaker on this application, we only have one, is the applicant, or the agent rather, Richard Kosak. Mr. Kosak, welcome.
Welcome. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. Afternoon. I'm Richard Kosak, the agent for the owners of 45 Smithwood. And we do have the 4 variances as you illustrated in the beginning. Would you like me to go over the 4 points?
I don't believe
sorry, Mr. Chair, before we get into that.
Sorry, Mr. Kumar.
I have a question. I just, when you look at the variance on number 2, there seems to be an error in the numbers there. Because you've got, like, are those numbers reversed, or what's going on there?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The only number that I see out of character there is the actually 571. And the 571, that is our lot area. So I'm not sure if that number should have been put in there. Because the 0.49 times the lot area, the lot area is 571. Proposed dwelling to have a gross floor area of 64 times, and the gross floor area is 366.5.
Yeah, well, the
including
0.49 number should be lower than the 366. Mr. Kamarik's absolutely right. How can that number at 0.49 be so much higher? Are those numbers just flipped over and they just should have been inverted?
Yeah, no, I think it reads a little. It should read a little different. I see what you mean. The 0.49 of the lot area, and the lot area is 571. So they actually don't.
The 0.49 is not the gross floor area; it's the lot area.
The 0.49 is our maximum floor area.
Okay, and what is that in meters?
Oh, in meters, that would be.
It's about half of that, because that's you're saying
in
571 is the total lot area. 0.49 would be just under half of that, right?
277.86. That's the 0.4. That's the 0.49.
So we have to revise that to 277.86, and then what you're asking point is 0.64, which is correct, 3.66.5. Madam Secretary Treasurer, we have a notice issue on this.
No, I don't think so. The
Okay.
percentages are correct and the proposed GFA is correct.
Yes.
It was just, for some reason, the lot area was indicated
Okay.
rather than
Okay,
the.
just wanted to
proposed
clarify that.
area.
So committee members, other than that, any other questions? Good catch, Mr. Kamark. Or is someone ready to make a motion? Transportation is okay.
Forestry is recommending refusal on it, is it not?
Yes, they are. Is it because of the driveway width?
Nicole,
Yeah.
can you share the report? It's not in the package.
Yes, it's a refusal, number 5, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was-
Actually, it says deny variance number 3, maximum driveway width.
Okay, so let's hear, we do have an arborist report, so perhaps we can hear from the agent on this issue, whether this transportation issue.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the denial of number 3 is to do with the driveway width. The driveway width is encroaching onto the TPZ of tree number 1, which is a privately owned tree, but the forestry department does mention through their report that it is a city-owned tree. I wasn't able to get through with them, but I believe our arborist states that any part of the wood above grade, which crosses the property line, would then classify it as a city tree. So there's a little bit of a foot, if you will, or a bottom root that does extend towards the sidewalk. So that would classify it as a city tree. The existing driveway, as you see in the picture there, we are moving it inward towards the tree. Our arborist does address that in his arborist report, and he's recommending that we retain his services for an on-site supervision of the driveway in that zone. There is a picture of the zone that's being affected. The arborist says that the tree is definitely has a survival rate. This won't harm the tree in long term. And it's all going to be done by hand. It's basically removing the topsoil and then installing the new driveway surface. The last sheet there, yeah, there, and you can see it in the orange on the bottom there. So you can see the orange extends up to the right side is the existing edge of the driveway. And obviously the left side is where the proposed hoarding will be. So that orange sliver is the zone that's affecting about 8% of the root zone, our arborist states in his report. And
Yikes. Did we lose it again?
Enter the event panelist numeric password, followed by pound.
just, that might harm the tree, let's say, or
Yeah, sorry,
someone from
sorry. I don't know if the other members have also. You've been down. We lost the room for about the last 30 seconds, so I don't know if the members
Okay.
have heard what you've been continuing. Did the members hear what the applicant was saying? It was just us that didn't hear. Okay, that's good. We don't have to back up then. So you were explaining and showing your diagram of the area, the 8% of the roots covered by this driveway, and what the arborist had proposed to taking off the topsoil, putting on the pavement, and monitoring that. So
page 6 of the art report, page 6, sort of midway through there, number 1.
okay. Committee members, have you heard? You ready to make a motion, or does anyone have any further questions for Mr. Kosak? In terms of the explanation how this tree will not be affected by or will not be destroyed by this area's zone, according to the arborist.
I'd be prepared to make a motion, but I'd like to put a forestry condition, and I'm not clear whether it should be a 1 or a 2. Is this considered a city tree, or a private tree. I'm assuming it's a private tree, so I'm going to go with forestry condition 2.
Madam Secretary Treasurer?
It looks like it's on the, it looks like on the survey that it's right on the boundary line. So if we use the condition in their report, city-owned tree, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah, the
condition
applicant,
1.
he described how, although it's a private tree because of where the roots go, it's considered a city tree. So you might as well make that the condition.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so that's your motion. Approved, subject to urban forestry condition number 1. There are no other.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Kosak, and thank you, members. And we now stand adjourned until 2:30, at which time we'll do the afternoon agenda. Okay, and any of those
Sorry,
people.
Mr. Chair, just to let you know, we'll be starting the afternoon agenda with item 27 due to a scheduling conflict.
Okay.
So we'll just be hearing that out of order at 2:30.
Okay. Start with item 27. Okay. Okay, so we'll see everyone back here in an hour. Thank you.